next, I guess, version of Hacker Hangouts. I know the last one was early in January. The last one was the Optimism Q&A. Had a few more community calls that Pepin was running, but I wanted to welcome you guys to a new one. But yeah, I mean, I guess let's get started. There's a few things that popped up on my radar today, just to kind of get things. Or actually, let me give a lay of the land. I guess one of the things for this call, for those that are new, this is what we call a Hacker Hangout. So essentially, what it allows you guys to do is be able to ask questions. Ping the community in Immunify to get some feedback, ask questions, learn a little bit more, share resources, things that you've come across, and able to essentially just trying to bring the community together, and for better collaboration. To get kick started, if anybody wants to hop on the stage to share anything interesting that they found or interesting that they have come across, feel free to raise your hand or request request to speak. Also keep in mind to keep an eye on the event channel. That's where a lot of the text-based conversation goes on. If you guys don't want to hop onto the stage, got my guy Sleepy in there already taking a look around. I guess some things that popped up on my radar today. If you guys aren't familiar, it seems as if looks as if there was a little bit of an exploit with an organization called IRA Financial Trust, where they essentially hackers stole 21 million in Bitcoin and 15 million in Ethereum. I know that's probably a little bit more of a centralized kind of platform, but essentially that was managed by Gemini. Yes, it was a hot wallet. Funds that were ready to, I think, moving in and out freely. Relatively small in this space, 21 million and 15 million. But yeah, so there's that that happened. I know there was some buzz around Looks Rare. They took out, what was it? They cashed out about $30 million worth of wrapped ETH. So it essentially crashed their native token. Not really too much of an exploit, but just kind of just one of those things where the team was already under scrutiny, and then they kind of just pulled one of those things, and the community's not too happy with it. But yeah, thought I'd open that up. If there's anything else that you guys found interesting, either post in here or request to come up on stage. No requests. Actually, Adrian, I'll bring you up on here. But anybody else that wants to share anything, I know I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of regulars. So welcome back, guys.
Hello all.
But yeah, I mean, Adrian, anything on your plate that you found interesting or lately, either today or this week so far, or kind of relatively quiet on there? I know a bunch of the guys are in ETH Denver too, so.
Yeah, there are a few guys on the ETH Denver right now. Maybe not right now, but on the way there. Definitely Duncan, our CTO, will be there. So if anybody listening will be at the ETH Denver, come say hi to him. But from the interesting things, I believe last week there was a Dego Finance hack, 10 million stolen. At the beginning it looked like a conventional rug pull, The 10 million in funds were drained from the Uniswap and the PancakeSwap pool, controlled by Dego, and the token price dropped significantly. And interestingly, the account which withdrew the funds belonged to the Dego Finance itself, but Dego later confirmed that on their social account on Twitter, saying that the private key for the address providing liquidity to all pools were compromised. And that's why we saw almost 10 million in funds gone, doing poof.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm also I forgot I also read about the Build Finance DAO. If you guys are not familiar with that, but essentially they're kind of going through a little bit of a hostile governance takeover, I guess if that's what you want to call it.
Do you know any details? I only heard about that event, but didn't dig much into it. Basically, till today, at till 12 a.m. my time, I was on a short vacation, and I got a bunch of emails that I needed to go through from all the day, so didn't have much time to check any interesting vulnerability events happening in the last few days. So I'm a little behind.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, in a high level, the person that was exploiting it was essentially able to leverage a large supply of the tokens. There's a deeper one. Mohammed Dex posted a link. That was actually interesting. How did they do the chain exploits? I'm not exactly sure. A little bit out of my my scope here, but essentially the DAO essentially doesn't control the governance contract, minting keys, or the treasury anymore. I believe it was close to 500,000 that they took. Maybe a little bit less or more. I don't remember, but I thought that was pretty interesting in terms of what was happening. So if you guys are familiar what Build Finance is, they essentially incentivize new projects. To build and reward them with tokens. So essentially, so they adopt like the Build Finance token. So, okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they provided a pretty good breakdown on their Twitter.
Yeah, there we go. IRS inspector says immunify Barcelona. Could be. You do have a lot of the team in Portugal. Mitchell's in Portugal, so so could be.
Mitchell, Jonah,
Jonah, Jen, I know is there.
yeah, not currently, but yeah. I'm not sure if we're allowed to dox our employees and our colleagues, but yeah.
No, I think, but yeah, I mean, those are some interesting things that are happening. No, Mitchell's not Portuguese. He is American. No, he's Canadian, but he lives in Portugal.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else you guys in the community want to chat about that you guys saw that was interesting? I know the Build Finance one, I forgot about it. I just ran into that was something that was interesting to me. And then just that relatively small little hack with IRA Financial Trust, where they had 21 million Bitcoin and 60 million in Ethereum exploited. That was essentially those were it looks as if they were Gemini linked retirement accounts that were set up by that company, by that fintech. So just interesting there. I don't exactly know. I'm sure if it's Gemini, then they have some sort of regulation, and they have something probably done with the SEC. So they'll probably get their money back. Yeah,
Yeah,
Gemini.
from what I know, Gemini from the start wanted to work by the law and collaborated with the officials from the startup. So probably they had some deals with the SEC. And in
Yeah,
general, since the last Hacker Hangout, yeah, there was a lot happening. For example, wormhole hack.
interesting. IRS wrote, "What are your thoughts on the masses joining the MEV game? The validators are looking to profit a lot. MEV, for you guys that don't know, is essentially minor extractable value." I don't know, Adrian, do you have any thoughts around that?
Um, I think it's good because it will create more understanding and knowledge shared throughout the community. Because with the MEV, you could do a lot of harm when you're not careful and not aware basically of the MEV. So people being more aware of that definitely will help and increase the security of the space, in my opinion. But of course, would also create interesting space for different arbitration and various different MEV games that could benefit the potentially the attackers. And yes, it's not longer a minor extractable value; it's maximum extractable value.
Yeah, that is true. It is maximum extractable value now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, in terms of what's happening in our immediate ecosystem, as you can see, the past few days, there's actually been some significant bug bounties that actually have been launched. Two, funny enough, $10 million bug bounties, one by MakerDAO and then the other one by Wormhole. These two currently are the largest in the Immunify bounty list. They're great. I don't know if that'll be the normal, but they're good ones to keep an eye on. But there are a lot of smaller ones, like Flamingo Finance just released a $1 million one. Uh,
I
so
just remember the times. I was not working at the time at the Immunify, but I was reading on the Twitter when Immunify was bragging that they launched the first 1 million bounty project, and now we're calling 1 million bounty a smaller one.
I know that's weird for me to say 1 million is a small one because like the last big one was Olympus, and they did $3,333,333. So that was the last big one, and then
Yeah.
this one came out with first it was MakerDAO with 10 million, and then Wormhole did 10 million, and then we have, funny enough, quote unquote, some smaller ones with Open. So they have Squeeth as well as Gamma. They're two platforms. Celsius X is a recent one. And then the other one that is, what did I just say? Flamingo Finance. So
Yeah.
funny that even 500,000 or half a million or 1 million is considered small. But you kind of have to look at it in respect of exactly. But yeah, I don't know if 10 million will be the new normal. That would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely would help push the security space forward. Because with every big hack, like for example with the wormhole being hacked, there is always a talk and in various Telegram groups and Discord groups if the 10% of the stolen money is the correct approach or not. And I think we will get there with pushing forward with increasing bug bounty sizes. Like, for example, $10 million bounty.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, actually I'm interested to wonder because with some of these $10 million bounties, I mean, there's two of them right now. It seems as if 1 million is actually being more common. Funny enough, when I first started, 1 million was a like, ooh, this is a big bounty. But it seems to be a little bit more common. Yeah, thanks, CK. That's actually true. Um, it seems to be a little bit more common now. But again, like I think one of the things to take a look at in this when you guys look at this is like the max bounty for a critical is great,
Mhm.
but there are also some like nice rewards like for even something that's medium or low or even high, high risk vulnerability. So I think in one of the strategies we spoke about last time, it's not necessary to always go for the grand prize, albeit like if you secure it. I'll be interested to see who gets the first 10 million for either of these protocols. I think it would be a huge pull, and very very well worth it. But I guess we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we already had a few of 2 million bounties paid out. So both were for Polygon.
Yeah,
And
Polygon.
and that drew a lot of attention to our platform and to Web3 security in general. So I think the first bigger payout than that, for example, that 10 million bug bounty payout, would be insane and definitely would make some big news.
For sure, for sure. So someone wrote, so Fearsome Lamb wrote, what advice would you give to someone who is about to graduate from college? So much to learn and so little I can contribute right now. I think one of the things that you can really do is, ask questions and participate in these events, like these calls, these things where you have a lot of guys here, actually on this call right now that are listening in that have found successfully found critical vulnerabilities. And I think one of the things too is just that, at least from my understanding from people that I've spoken with, is not necessarily that you have to be this, like auditing ace, and you have to be this like savant of a coder. I think one of the things that you just have to understand is the logic of how the code is put together, what the code is actually asking for, what functions it's asking for. Because a lot of people, I think, like normally, at least like for myself, on a little bit more of a non-technical standpoint, I think the first place I would go to figure out what a protocol does is I would go to the documentation. But a lot of people have told me just that the documentation lies. Like it's not like what is actually being coded is not necessarily what the documentation is being what the documentation dictates. So I think one of those things that you could take a look into is uh, so one of the things that you could take a look into is just, I would say, learn by taking a look at some of the postmortems. There is a postmortem channel here that is under, where is it? It's under the main scene. If you look at the general chat, the postmortem chat is right there.
Mhm.
Um, let me see if I get so you can go here to take a look at it. So I threw that in the event channel. So the postmortems is great to actually learn to figure out how some of these exploits are happening, what the fixes are. Um, so that would be one of the things I would take a look into. We post a lot of tutorials and how-tos on our blog. So you could take a look at in terms of that, in terms of, for example, how to create testing environments, how to test your POCs, POCs being proof of concepts, and essentially how to navigate the space, how to submit bugs, how to find bugs, how to kind of report these things. So these are one of the things that that's I would say would be some good advice in terms of getting started. If any of you other guys, more experienced hackers, white hats in the channel, have some advice for someone that's about to graduate college or think about hopping into space, feel free to pop it in the chat.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I completely agree with the reading postmortems. Also, especially the one that we write, because we try to write and give as much information as possible to you, so you could understand the bug without needing to go over and googling other terms that were used in the postmortem. Also, we give the breakdown of the bug, why it did happen, all the step-by-step guide to reproducing the bug. So later on, you could, for example, POC your own version of that bug. And apart from that, I think just joining the Minify community and just asking questions, because if you don't ask questions and you're stuck on something, you don't know how to proceed. The best way to move forward is just finding other people like you, asking questions, and just learning from each other.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely some good things is so Mohammed X just is right. It's like it's just you just got to jump in and just get involved and just start learning. There's really no like set course or set up or like specific class or degree that you need. Like most of the ones that I've spoken to are a like self-learn. They kind of just picked it up on their own. Everybody has their process. Everybody's process is different. Everybody's mentality in terms of how they approach it is also different as well. So it just depends really.
And also, I noticed some discussion regarding the salary range. If you're starting, I wouldn't worry about that at all, because what you really care about is experience. And with experience, for example, after a year or two, you could negotiate a really good salary. At the start, just focus on getting an experience with auditing, bug bountying, or whatever. And later on, if you're wanting to land a job, then you could worry about the salary, but not for the beginning. Don't let money thinking cloud your judgment of what you should learn.
Cool. Also, I wanted to. He just jumped on stage. So I wanted to introduce Giannis. Giannis is the founder of a DDoB, one of the bigger or one of the more well-known, I guess, security firms. They've gotten a few. They found a few critical, vulnerabilities. They're pretty much very well versed in this in the blockchain space. I guess Giannis, if can you introduce yourself in terms of what you do and what DDoB is?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. Is my mic okay?
Yeah, your mic's okay. It has a little bit of feedback, but should be all right.
Okay. Well, let me try to see if I can improve that in 1 sec. Uh, it's possible it's a little bit better. Nope.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit better.
Uh, Sorry, guys. Must be the wrong mic that's picking up right now. So
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. I mean I could still hear you. So if you want to proceed without
yeah, yeah. Noise suppression. Check this field. Let's see if
oh
Well, we cannot say that Pepin's advice didn't help with the buzzing.
Good job, Pepin.
Yeah, the buzzing is no longer here.
Yeah. I think I have to invite him back in. Hold on. Where'd he go? All right. Oh, you guys are too funny.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. We can still hear you, so we can go. We go ahead and yeah, just give yourself. Do you have a quick introduction of yourself, as well as what
Um,
does?
I don't really have too much of an introduction. I'm a security researcher. I originally came from academic research. I've been doing program analysis research, and I co-founded DDoB, which has had a few successes in the past year. So we have had 7 or 8 public vulnerabilities disclosed with bounties. Most of them, I think, 5 through Immunified. So it's been a very thrilling ride, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, and hopefully my microphone will cooperate. I do have a very good mic, but I think right now Discord has decided to pick the wrong one, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how one can upskill fast. I really don't know that. I mean, read a lot of code, use contract library, which we've been building since 2018, and it's a great decompilation tool and something to browse low level, especially when there's no source code available. We are trying to make it into a really, really good code browser, security oriented. Uh, yeah, I don't know what else to say, but I will be watching for questions. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
us. We
that's the
are.
content library, right?
Yeah, that's well. Yes, contract-library.com, which I think was posted a couple of pages up, is the direct site.
Oh,
But the page you just gave from our DDoP site also takes you there one link away.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
The wormhole fiasco. I haven't followed it too closely, so sorry, I don't have an opinion there. I just read a couple of things. General
Yeah.
state of static analysis tooling for smart contracts. Well, so we use our own tooling, and it has led us to most of the vulnerabilities disclosures that we've made. I mean, our tools do not directly pinpoint vulnerabilities, but they definitely give us a very small set of suspicious sites to inspect. And then you really need someone who has a lot of security expertise to see whether the warning is real or not. But I would say if I can get a tool that will give me 20 false positives for every true high value vulnerability, for every true vulnerability, let's say, that's still good enough. So recently we disclosed in January the multi-chain vulnerability. It was probably the largest, one of the largest ever. It was like over 400 million directly vulnerable. That was certainly our largest, but possibly also for DeFi overall. And that one, okay, so it was a weird vulnerability pattern, so it definitely required security expertise. But even knowing the pattern, I had to inspect over 60 false positives before we got the first contract with actual funds that had the vulnerable pattern. So yeah, it takes a little bit of patience for sure, and a lot of expertise. So I think the state of static analysis tooling for smart contracts is really, really good. This is a great domain for applying static analysis tooling. You have programs that are of very small size. The entire code is available. The entire state is available. All the storage is available. All the past executions are available. This is fantastic for someone to develop tooling. And that's what we've been trying to do.
And looking at some of your findings and reports submitted to Immunify, it sounds like you're doing a great job. So,
thank you. Thank you. Like I said, IRS inspector, I do have an excellent professional mic. It's just not the one that's picking up right now, it seems.
These guys,
it's picking up the mic from my laptop. If anyone knows how to make Firefox pick up a different mic, let me check settings.
Probably might be in the settings section. So interesting. That's interesting. So Mohammed actually wanted to ask you, Giannis, like you started a firm or a company, unlike what most white hackers do. What led to that, and why did you start a company versus, what most white hackers, they just work by themselves or in a small team?
Yeah, so I didn't. So I don't know if the mic is any better, but I found the setting. I think
it's much better.
Oh, it is much better.
Yeah. Okay.
It sounds professional.
Okay, so that's the great mic now. It was picking up my laptop mic. I suspected that when you said that it sounds like an engine. So I didn't set out to be a white hat hacker. I set out to build technology for smart contracts, for contract exploration. The very first thing we did, the technology that we've had out since 2018 is a decompiler for EVM bytecode. That's the one that's demonstrated on contractlibrary.com. So we set out to first create a decompiler that gives us a good intermediate representation that we can run analysis on. And basically, we were getting very little attention, or we were getting some users. I mean, we do have users on Contract Library, but it all started becoming a lot more successful once we started disclosing major vulnerabilities. So it's really the demand and the kind of attention that this brought that made me more of a white hat hacker. And I have to say, for full disclosure, I'm an older guy. I am in my late 40s, soon to be 50s. So I'm not the typical white hat hacker or hacker at all. I became a hacker pretty late in life. So I started a company to build technology is the right answer. I started a company to create good decompilation and static analysis technology for smart contracts. And we found a lot of traction in the security vulnerabilities business, and also in auditing, which is kind of the obvious way to make a predictable income in this space.
That makes sense. I think it's interesting too, is like, because CKK actually brings up a good point, is like, what is really late in life? I think late in life is kind of relative. And I think like the experience and the track record and the credentials that you have under your belt, I think speaks much more volumes than really anything else. Because you definitely have the credibility in the space. So I wouldn't really, I wouldn't really think that like age really has anything to do with it. I think it's just more of the experience and how deeply involved you are in the space and the things that you do, especially 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 in this, like to kind of think that blockchain or white hat hacking or even development is like a young person's game, I think is incorrect, because you've seen it as well in terms of this whole blockchain crypto space, where you've gotten a lot of institution and people that are moving from institution into the crypto space are similar age to you too. The people that have been in banking all their lives, that hop over into crypto, into some sort of protocol. Maybe they make a stop at something a little bit more traditional like a Coinbase or a Gemini, but they still make that hop over. So again, like I wouldn't take that as I would take that as just a man with experience, Giannis.
Well, thank you. Yes, that's why I want to see it. So I see a lot of interesting questions, and I may be missing some. Yes, I do have much experience in coding. I've been coding all my life. There's no question about that. And I have also coded professionally, even though I've been a university professor for for most of my life. I have also coded professionally for quite some time, and both open source projects, but also closed source in industry. Regulators, starting a crypto company. Yes, not easy, not easy, but everyone seems to need to reinvent the wheel, is our understanding. And also talking to Immunify, for instance, any kind of legitimate company in this space has had to reinvent things on their own. But yeah, in the end, once basics such as money transfers and banking get sorted out, the rest is between you and the taxman of whatever jurisdiction. So if you want to try to play by the rules, you can certainly do it. I mean, it is possible. It is murky. It is a big headache. I think we are doing it right, and I think we're doing it well. And probably there are a million ways to do it right and well, and none of them is easy as far as I know. And if you have good advice on setting a good legitimate crypto company these days, would love to hear it, even though we've probably gone through the hardest part.
I think. Oh, oops.
Yeah, banks do have a problem. It's very hard to get banking, and the kind of KYC requirements that you get, even for electronic money organizations, sometimes can be. I mean, it's crazy requirements sometimes. Nothing to do with what you have to do for a personal account. So yes, we had to jump through a lot of hoops, but it's just bureaucracy. It's just very ugly bureaucracy, and someone needing to be very persistent. So question, are we VC backed? DDoB, no. We are actually the best we can be, which means we had no income until we started getting bounties. And once we started getting bounties, we started getting audits. And as soon as we started getting audits, we never needed any funding. So we're now well funded on our own. So we are entirely a grassroots funded business. Yes, we've been turned down by many banks as well. Everyone is getting turned down by many banks in the crypto space. What do I think about learning Yule and Yule Plus? So I really have not followed it so much unless you write tools and you use that as an intermediate representation. I don't know if learning it by itself will help, but it should be a good representation. I haven't looked into Yule in over a year, so I really don't know how well it keeps up, but I imagine it does very, very well. So it was mainly a passion project. I guess you're talking about contract library or DDoB overall. Yeah, it was a passion project for sure. And what are the plans for DDoB long term? What's the vision of where DDoB will be in 2 to 3 years? So we found 8 vulnerabilities in the past 13 months with bounties. 7 out of 8 were very substantially helped by our technology, and 1 was incidentally helped by the technology. So we're creating this service, the Watchdog service, that applies some 70 different static analysis over the code and tries to combine this with dynamic information. And we hope to make this an extremely useful service for anyone deploying contracts on the blockchain. So what's the vision? What's the dream? That in 2 to 3 years, There will be many hundreds of companies that when they deploy protocols on the blockchain, they will definitely subscribe for our professional level support with a watchdog service. And we will be a technology company much more than a service company, much more than an auditing company and a bounty company that we are now. So are there any other tools, resources we use outside of the ones we have developed internally? I guess all the standard tools. We don't use other static analysis tools, but anything that can help. All the DApp tools. Browsing code, all the standard stuff. I can't think of anything that's kind of exotic that gives us great leverage. When I browse code, VS Code, like I think almost everyone, and so much of my day is in front of VS Code. Much of my night actually is in front of VS Code. My day maybe not so much. Yeah, I hope that I covered that. Are we collaborating with Open Zeppelin for this contract service thing, which I mentioned? May I ask where you heard that? We are planning something, yes, not right now, actively. Do you think there could be more done on the development tooling side to increase the security of smart contracts? Sure, but I don't have any great ideas to offer there. For sure, there could be more done. Yeah, no comment on possible business deals or anything.
That was good. See what other questions you guys got for Giannis while he's here. Someone asking what about joining your organization?
Send me email and let's talk. Let's talk. What's our yardstick? I don't know. I don't think we have one. We like to work with people we have a great chemistry with, and certainly if you have experience, we'd love to hear from you. So learning process. When's the right time to start on live hunting? Sounds to me like you're already at a stage where you could start with live hunting. Just have a lot of patience and don't get disappointed, because this is not going to be quick. Like any hunting of live vulnerabilities is going to be 99% boredom and 1% absolute exhilaration. And you will not even believe it yourself until you find the first real one. And then you'll start believing that it's real. And then you'll find more, because your mentality has changed now and you believe that there are real ones. But the very first one is the hardest. Do you also do random bounties, like selecting projects randomly, or do we rely on tools pushing out warnings? We are trying to, definitely look, anyone who sees a $10 million bounty will try to look at the code, will look at suspicious parts, but so will hundreds of other people. So there's not tremendous promise this way. Also, we are auditors, and right now we are highly sought after auditors. We're booked until May or so. We don't really have the time to spend a lot of hours understanding random code in depth. That's why our tooling comes very handy, because even if the tooling does not really pinpoint the vulnerability, just tells you that there's this kind of functionality and this contract is pushing a lot of money around, so it's worth your attention. It just focuses your attention 100-fold, and it can get you there, even if the tooling by itself doesn't do the most meaningful part of the job, and sometimes it does. There are lots of questions, guys. Sorry, I can't keep up. Someone will need to perhaps be repeating. Before making code public, what steps do you ensure that you have a checklist for org repo? No, we don't have a checklist. Sorry. For the projects we audit, we do have some short guidelines, but these are mostly to prepare for an audit, not for checklist for deployment. Sorry. Meaningful career, hunting bugs, finding some bugs here and there. On your free time, well, it takes some commitment, because the problem is you may be good enough, but you do to some extent need to differentiate yourself from other people who are really good. So if you just do it with less of a commitment, you have to think of what will be your unique angle. Maybe you pick projects with a completely different random distribution than others, so you pick projects that others don't focus on. Okay, so complete speculation by Moham3DX got this info out. That's fantastic. Okay.
Got engineering under his belt.
So how sophisticated our static analysis gets? The most sophisticated analysis we have is published in a paper from last November of 21. So you can actually find it on our webpage. There is a technical paper. Now, I don't know how easy this is to follow. Is it model checking or hybrid fuzzing? It's really neither of the two. It is static analysis that tries to keep enough dependencies to be very precise, but at the same time, it tries to scale a lot better than model checking. So it very often will just over approximate and say, well, I imagine you can satisfy this condition, just get it out of the way. And I'll just guess some values here. So it doesn't really try to follow the program extremely closely, but it tries to keep precision for some crucial variables, and the technology you can read about in our paper. Do you have kids? Yeah, one. How did I manage work-life balance with starting a new venture? Kid is a little older. I mean, 12 now. Yeah, with a baby. Yeah, I sympathize. Not sure what to say. Don't start a venture with a baby unless you already have some money for good nannies, I guess. Which, yeah, that's.
That's what I heard from. That's what I heard from. Just to get your opinion on that. Not that I'm
Yes.
thinking about starting something my own, but more thinking about how to stay up to date and not go crazy.
Yes, I mean, startup and a very young child. Come on, I mean, it's going to be very tough, very tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, get nannies, get a nanny if you can. I don't know. Yeah. that would be my non-expert advice, right? It's not like I've done that.
Sure.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Got it.
Someone just
Yes,
confirmed.
that's exactly the paper. Yes, that's the paper. Is the lack of sleep. Yeah, that too. Tell the kid blockchain stars. Okay, I think I covered all the questions, guys. Okay.
Yeah, and they're telling you when you got to get your kid on that $10 million bounty.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions for Giannis? I don't want to keep him too long. I know he's a very busy guy. So if you guys got any more questions for him, just throw them in the chat. I guess we'll get a few people are typing, so we'll give it a.
I have no problem sticking around for a little while longer.
Yeah, sure. In terms of someone that wants to contact you for anything, what's the best?
Yeah, mail is fine. Mail is fine because it's asynchronous, so I can just put it on my to-do box. So you can just use my email here or any of the emails you find by Googling my name. I mean, I do have a researcher webpage, so you'll find my personal and university email as well. Can you spam me on Twitter? Well, I'll see that there's a little icon on Twitter that it tells me I have notifications, and every 2 or 3 days I will open it and I may read the messages. Is that good enough answer? Twitter is not part of my workflow. It's not really a part of my workflow. I mean, it's just something that I browse just for information and for entertainment, but not part of my workflow. Telegram and email are part of my workflow, and Slack, of course, because of the company.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So if you do want to reach out to Giannis, send them a note on email, and he'll get back to you.
Email is not a secure option. That's true. You know,
Wait.
I'll regret doing this. Let me regret that. Telegram as well, if you really want to a more secure option.
There they go. Another question is, compared to web bug bounties, do you think it's easier to find stuff on smart contracts, or is it the same?
I don't know about easier. I think it's easier to get higher bounties, and it's more reliable. My impression is that for smart contracts, the posted bounties are almost always paid, and they are high. So in that sense, it's easier to get really, really good bounties for smart contracts compared to almost any other security domain, is my feeling. Hey. Yeah, I am on the ETH Security Telegram group. So you can find that. This paper is neat. Do you have any thoughts about vulnerabilities that involve multiple smart contract invocations? So we do try to do a lot of that. Here's the thing. Here's why I'm not a huge believer in finding vulnerabilities that involve multiple smart contracts. Either the multiple smart contracts know about each other and trust each other, in which case you model that, because how do you know about each other and trust them? Typically, either you have a hard-coded address or you have it somewhere on storage, and all of that we can model in an analysis. Or any vulnerability that involves multiple smart contracts, but they are untrusted, has to make a worst case assumption, like this is a hostile world. So in smart contracts especially, you don't need to worry so much about interactions between multiple contracts. You more need to worry about state, not more need to worry about what's in a certain storage location when you do the analysis. And in everything else, you just treat the whole outside world as hostile. So yes, there are vulnerabilities that involve multiple smart contracts. This is a very promising direction. That's what to look for. But in terms of tools that try to analyze for those automatically, you really don't want to be analyzing multiple contracts at once, typically. Yes. So for the ETH security, there is a Discord, I guess. Yes. And it is true that Immunify has changed the game. Immunify has been great for higher bug bounties, for lots of publicity in bug bounties. So yes, it is. It's a different level now. And I think I'll mute myself now and maybe answer a couple of questions by chat if there are more in the next few minutes.
Yeah, that works. Appreciate you hopping on stage, Giannis. It's been awesome, especially someone of your caliber to just hop on stage and just chat with us. But yeah, feel free to participate in the chat. That's always ongoing, forever ongoing. So yeah, so
Thank
you
you
guys.
very much for having me. And sorry, I'm clueless about Discord. That's another great tool that is not part of my workflow. So sorry about the mic mess up, but great to be here.
No worries. Daniel,
Voice
if you want,
question.
yeah,
Sure,
if you hop
yes.
on, feel free. I gotta find you. Uh,
Already invited him.
oh, there you go.
Hey, thank you. Sorry, I had to catch meetings and only caught the last 15 minutes of this, but I've loved the stuff that your company does. Am I right in kind of understanding that you guys basically built tooling so that you can kind of like give yourself bug hunting superpowers and see things as they come in? Is that kind of like the focus of your company?
Well, kind of. Our goal was not entirely to create bug hunting superpowers, but to some extent, and not entirely to see things as they come in, because we're not a live monitoring service. We don't really actually watch for transactions. It's not like we have a service that checks like this account got funded by Tornado Cash or something. That's not the thing we do. But what we do is we try to develop deep program understanding to have great static analysis technology and to run many tens of pretty sophisticated analysis and pretty specialized analysis uh, on every contract deployed. And also, sure, get high value warnings from that. And yes, so you can call that we're trying to have bug hunting superpowers. Yes, absolutely. Like things that people look for by hand routinely.
Right.
Like, I mean, let me mention a couple of sophisticated analysis, right? A sophisticated queries that you may want to ask, and then the analysis that will determine this with high precision will need to be pretty sophisticated. If you want to ask, does this EC recover operation sign all the things that it's supposed to sign? That's pretty sophisticated. We have an analysis for that. I mean, that's something that an auditor looks by hand, but our tool looks for that automatically. Is this Uniswap callback used correctly? Is this any callback, DYDX, whatever you want? Is this used correctly? Or if there are specific bugs? Is this value tainted by untrusted inputs? So all of that we try to answer with very good precision and great coverage. So yes, the analysis focuses our attention a lot.
Yeah. So what's that stack written in?
So what's the main analysis written in?
Yeah.
It's written in a language called Datalog, which is kind of
Okay.
a
Yeah.
more predictable variant of Prolog. So it's basically logic-based rules.
Okay.
So, I mean, I have many research
I've written a
papers
tiny
on
bit of
that.
prologue a lot, like 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, so the analysis technologies, it's actually really well documented. I don't want to claim that this is magic, right? Most of the interesting stuff that has to do with vulnerabilities comes from security expertise. But the tools give you a leverage. There's no question about that.
So I know you guys famously had an idea and then wrote it up in code and found out very quickly that there were things vulnerable. How is I guess that's something that's hard to scale to allow outsiders to do, just because that would be easy to use for evil as well as for good. But are there any ways that you've thought of to allow outsiders to use more of your tooling?
So what you just said is a major concern for exporting kind of sensitive functionality in contract library. That's why most of our tooling is not exposed to contract library. It's only exposed to outsiders through the Watchdog service, which is a paid service, and we know exactly who uses it and what protocols they monitor. So that is a very major concern. If we have something that gives warnings pretty reliably, how do we know that it's not misused? So
Yeah.
I can't think of great ways to do that.
Okay, I didn't see that. I hadn't heard of your watchdog thing, so I'll take a look and see what's there.
Yeah, but it is a subscription based service. This is not a cheap thing.
Yeah. Now, sometimes I'll come up with an idea for a vulnerability class or something, and be too lazy to go search for it. So is that something I could just like, if I came up with an idea, I could just like send you guys a telegram and say, hey, and if you guys felt like it, you guys could see if it was interesting and rule worthy or something. I'm not on the bounty hunty side so much, or it's something I do for fun as a hobby, but I'm much more on the keep contracts secure side. So
yeah, I mean, if you think of a new attack vector or something that you see as a bug that you think generalizes, absolutely ask us. I mean, we may already have the answer because I have a few hundred different queries that we run, but most likely not. So maybe it's something that we can easily test and see how widespread it is. I mean, you have to realize I can find a lot of vulnerable contracts. There are many, many contracts out there. I can find a lot of vulnerable ones. What's harder is that you find buggy code that also handles a lot of money. That's extremely unlikely. The code that handles a lot of money is typically very well audited, written by great people, etc. If you just want to find buggy code in empty contracts, give me an hour and tell me how many you want, and I can get you that. We have the tools to get you valueless buggy contracts.
Yes. And I guess another side of that is that you also, oftentimes, real vulnerabilities are combinations of bugs that line up so that you can leap from one bug to the other bug to get something done. A single bug often is not enough to take out a contract.
Yes, that's true. And that's where much of the tooling will not be of help. You may need manual inspection. And I will say this again, there's no substitute for security expertise and manual inspection. Don't think that the tools are somehow magical. Most of the work is done through the manual inspection, but I mean, if you have good tools, it always helps.
Yep. Well, I think what you guys have built is really amazing, and it's my first stop for decompiling things, taking a look when weird stuff shows up off of Tornado.
Thank you. Thank you for all the support.
I think there's a few more questions, Giannis, in the chat if you want to hop in there and text if you don't want to talk.
Yeah. I'm reading now. I'm scrolling down. The data log that we use, yes, this is Souffle. I mean, our compiler is Souffle for the data log. Has been for a while. I mean, we've been supporters of the Souffle project since the beginning. Social engineering, I'm not an expert on that. That's not all I know is the things you know. Do we use machine learning at all? No, but we'd love to in the future. So yeah, I mean, we've had minor projects involving machine learning for like tuning, analysis parameters, etc. No major success. Would we like to use it in the future? Is it a big thing that may come along in program analysis? Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely promising. Who knows? Yes, proof of concept. There is a good Immunify article.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Oh, I got it. Just found it. I got you covered there. Oh, someone got it. Adrian's got it before me. There you go.
So there's a question. The general knowledge of cybersecurity applies to blockchain security. Yes, it does, but it's more of the mindset thing. rather than the buffer overflow kinds of things. These are mostly things that you will find in CTF competitions, but in practice, it's not the same attack vectors in blockchain and smart contracts security, I will say. So the mindset definitely applies. The specific vulnerabilities don't quite apply. How do we get an overview of contracts and remember things like what each variable is or does? I don't know if it's. I don't go by overviews very much. Like, I can tell you the way I read code. I use VS Code. I do searches all the time. I write comments on everything that was not initially obvious to me when I read it. So I put a little note there and say, "Oh, this is what it really does." But mostly the Control Shift F thing is my best friend when I read code, just to look throughout the project for the same string and find where it's used, where it's defined, etc. I think the questions have moved on, and there is one for me with any ML modeling. I haven't worked much with ML modeling, but I do hope to have ML modeling both receive static analysis information and give us some interesting inputs that we can use in static analysis. So I'm hoping for good marriages there in future years, but not right now.
Looks like you're all caught up, Giannis. But yeah, thank you again for just hopping on and chatting with the community and giving everybody some insight. I think everybody appreciated you've been answering all the questions to the best of your ability, so it's been awesome. Yeah, so again, floor is still open. Yeah, thank you. Floor is still open. If you guys, there's going to be Giannis will be taking a look at the chat. So if you guys have any more questions for him, feel free. Also, Daniel is up here on stage too. So if you have any questions for him as well, feel free to throw it in the chat. Yeah, so we'll keep this open, keep the conversation flowing. But yeah, some good insights here from everybody on stage and everybody in the chat. So see what else. All right, so Dan will be here for 10 more minutes. So if you got a question for him, feel free to throw it in the chat. He's always been a good person to have these hangouts. So I appreciate you just hopping on whenever you can. But yeah.
So we need to figure that out, Adrian. Who went first there? Because I sent that in as soon as I can find a date. Maybe we'll have to MD5 our dates and then compare and find out who went first.
Yeah, I think we need to.
So there's a question for you, Daniel, in terms of I see. That's what you guys are talking about. That's funny. Yeah. There's a question for you in terms of how do you define if you do it as that you do BB as a hobby, how much time do you spend on it?
Sadly, like none in the last 2 months as our product is taken off. So I've been doing a lot of internal auditing, and I've been bringing some internal people up to speed on writing secure stuff. Before that, it was again a hobby, more like something I'd do on a weekend, or like a pull up in the middle of the night or something just to look at. So it's definitely an area where there's a lot less people looking for bugs than there are people making bugs. And so unless it's changed dramatically in the last few months, there's certainly no lack of bugs out there to be found. But as far as security related things, that's probably 2 to 3 days of my week.
The bugs do exist, and you guys do have to find them. But yeah, I think yeah. So we'll keep this open a little bit longer. Again, if you guys have any more questions, I know if you guys got to hop out, feel free to hop out. Appreciate you guys for hopping in on this Hacker Hangout. Always a pleasure to chat with you guys. You guys are pretty entertaining in the chat itself already. So yeah, so any more questions, anything you guys want, feedback, insight? I know Daniel's here for a few more minutes. Giannis is hanging around. Feel free to hop in the chat or hop on stage.
Yeah, and one more thing for anybody who still listens. Next time when we announce Hacker, please tell your friends we want to break 100 threshold of people listening. We already break down 50 people listening twice, I think. Today I saw 50 people listening, and before we got maybe even more. So we just try to hit 100.
Yep.
And that would be awesome.
Also, if you guys haven't already, I know I was telling this the last time, but do follow us on Immunify at Twitter. Obviously you guys are in our Discord. Sign up for our mailing list. That's usually the fastest way to get updated in terms of the bounties or projects that are releasing their bug bounty programs. I know sometimes some of these projects timing is of the essence, so sometimes being one of the first few to take a look at the code is, has its advantages. I wouldn't say it's like a sure thing, but it's good to stay updated to either work on projects that you are interested in, or at least review projects that you're interested in, or just kind of get a lay of the land in terms of the types of projects that are being released. In terms of this event, it was supposed to be bi-weekly. So this is we had one in January, and then we had one Optimism, a Q&A with those guys. And then kind of this the first one for this month. But it should be bi-weekly moving forward. And then we were originally going to do it on Twitter Spaces. That was the original goal, but I think we stuck to it on the Discord stage just because there's more of more relevant questions here. So it actually makes it a little bit more focused in terms of the discussion and the questions. If we opened up to Twitter Spaces, who knows? You might get questions like, "What is a bug bounty? What is a white hat?" And then Sleepy will make you answer those questions. We'll have you be our you'll be answering the questions of what is a white hat, what is Immunify. But yeah, I guess I'll keep this open a little bit longer. Again, like I said, any questions, concerns, things that interest you, things that white hat is a nice hat. That is true. That is true. Feel free to pop in.
Well, I'll answer Tom's question real fast. How does OUSD mint into your wallet? And if somebody asks a more bug bounty related question, we can go to that too. But so the tricky part about that, or the fun part about that, is we were basically updating thousands of people's balances off of a single write. And so every time a rebase happens, everybody's balances go up. This is sort of a similar underneath the hood mechanism to something used like Ampleforth or probably almost any rebasing token. But basically, you have two numbers. One number is a global, kind of a global multiplier, and then you have a hidden secret internal balance for every account. And then whenever you want to update everybody's balance, you just update that global multiplier. And when somebody calls balance of on the contract, you multiply the hidden secret number by the global multiplier to get their actual balance. And that's how you get single writes, update everything. For OUSD, it's actually much more complicated, though, because we support smart contracts that don't rebase. So we have both rebasing things and non-rebasing things. And although that gives us some superpowers and some interesting yield options, I would not recommend anybody do that at home, and that makes things move from fairly simple to insanely complicated. Also, Adrian, I sent in my Tech Talk title on January 7th.
Okay, let me check mine. I sent mine. You said January 7?
Yep.
Damn it, I got 18. Wait, I talked about that on 11th. Damn it, let me just scroll back a little bit. Fuck. Yeah, officially I talked to January 11th. But
Wow, that was close.
internally, before I sent them, let me just check that. I don't think I will find that quickly.
So one of my, changing the topic for a second, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple of weeks is I've been bringing a new Solidity programmer up and really focusing on how can he write secure Solidity code, is that the smallest amount of state possible is the biggest multiplier you can get for having secure code, because almost all bugs are, or at least all difficult bugs tend to be related to state. And if you can have less of it, it makes almost like a multiplying, just like lines of code gets much worse, non-linearly worse. You get a big multiplier in simplicity by going down in the amount of state you have. Anyway, I'm heading out now. Good talking to you guys and great listening.
Right. Thanks so much for hopping in.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to your talk at Razer Sec. Interesting to watch what you're going
Have a
to
good
say.
one.
Cool. We're almost coming up on the 90-minute mark. So I'll keep it open for a little bit longer. If you guys have any other questions, again, feel free. I see Giannis is still lurking, so if you guys get any questions for him, throw it in the chat. And as usual, another awesome Hacker Hangout. Appreciate you guys all for coming by. Big thanks to Giannis for hopping by. Big thanks also to Daniel. You guys always Giannis has provided some awesome insight and some really good information for you guys.
Yeah, definitely gonna get a nanny.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he did provide some contact information above. So if you have any questions for him, send him a note via email or Telegram. Both are okay. And hopefully you guys he'll get back to you. But yeah, I think Adrian, that might be it for today.
I just wanted also to say thank you for all the questions. Thank you, Yanis, for being here. It was really interesting and awesome to hear your insight. And yeah, I think we will see maybe in 2 weeks. We'll see how the bi-weekly things gonna go.
Yeah, we'll try and stick to the bi-weekly thing. Sometimes there's other come through, or there's just hiccups in scheduling. But yeah, yeah, okay. We'll see you in 2 weeks. But I'm pretty sure we'll do another one in 2 weeks. I don't think there'll be too much of an issue. Um, but yeah, I think that's it. I think we can close this one out. Thank you guys all for coming by. It's been awesome. Always a pleasure. You guys provide some great entertainment on the chat. I was telling Adrian I actually had to mute myself because some of the things that you guys were saying cracked me up. So I had to mute myself for a little bit, just to compose myself. But yeah, thanks again, guys. I think we're good. Is it? Oh, we do have a question, Adrian. Is it possible to submit bug reports without providing your payout address? Only when it's valid and ready for reward claim. I think it's already done, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's right, but actually, I'm not sure if the
I think I think in terms of the process, I don't think you'll need to provide a payout address up front if you don't want to. I think it's optional. But I think that would be under. I'm just speaking, so don't quote me on anything. I'm just speaking based on kind of my observation. I think it might be at the discretion between either Immunify or the project. So, but I believe you don't have to provide it up front. Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't even make any sense because you can always create a new address. That's correct. Yep, that's right. CKK is right as well. Not I don't think it's necessary. But cool. I think that's it for this Hacker Hangout. If we want to if you want to continue the conversation in chat, I'll be there as well. But I think we might be closing this out. But I will leave this open for. I'll leave this event open. But I guess I'll exit in about. I'll mute myself and exit in about like 3 minutes when it hits the 90-minute mark.